So a little bit about the job description generator. So we work with a lot of companies in, when they start a reskilling journey, moving from job-based to skill-based. The first, I like to sort of help you visualize in a pyramid. The first layer is supporting aligning the talent architecture, right? So what are the jobs that we have? What are the skills that we have within those jobs? And what are what is the match to the people that we have to those jobs? And what a lot of CHROs sort of experienced in the last couple of years was this second layer, which is the application layer, where you have your HR technologies that are actually launching reskilling journeys, right? So they could be an LMS system or an HCM system with type of career pathway capability, talent marketplaces, etc. So one of the things we've learned in the industry is that if you just jump into the second layer, the application layer, without aligning your talent architecture, then really it's kind of like setting a direction on a map without a destination, right? You sort of have a whole bunch of activity going on within the applications, but you don't actually know if that's aligning to your talent architecture. And so then ultimately on the top of the pyramid is strategic workforce planning, where are the movements that we're making every day on a reskilling journey across a large organization actually contributing to business value in the long term? So our technology with the enterprise platform supports, those three sort of pieces, and it starts with talent architecture. And one of the things that we were hearing was, when you take an organization of, call it 150,000 people, they're likely going to have, call it somewhere between 30,000 and 50,000 unique jobs. Now, the job titles may not be as many, but once you actually get into the actual descriptions of the jobs, that's where it becomes kind of 30,000, 50,000, and it becomes an absolute mess to be able to try and align those things towards a workforce transformation or a reskilling journey. And for many, up until now, it's been manual, where human capital consultancies have come in, they've helped build, job taxonomies and skill ontologies, and then kind of run through a manual assessment process and pulled all of these pieces together. The issue with that is when the labor market's moving so quickly and jobs and skills are changing so fast, by the time you get that manual process done, you have to restart again. And so we built the job description generator to be completely harmonized with the real-time labor market. And so if, and we include this technology in our enterprise platform in the talent acquisition module for talent acquisition professionals to use it as part of their day-to-day, along with all the other suite of sort of capability that we have within that module. And the goal is to unify the internal talent architecture with the real-time labor market. And so if we're creating new jobs in software engineering or cloud computing, or even traditional jobs with customer service representatives where there's sort of blending of automation and that type of thing happening, the goal is to ensure that at all times our clients have an up-to-date job description that is relevant to the labor market at large, relevant in terms of understanding the compensation at that moment. So we have real-time compensation that's attached to these roles, and understanding that it's skill-based. And so not only are we looking at job descriptions in terms of job titles, but we're looking at skills. And the reason why this is sort of game-changing is, if you try to go out and do a Boolean search as a recruiter or a talent acquisition professional, you're going to get a subset of a labor pool, right? And that labor pool will be matched and you can begin to assess them. With skill-based, now you've broadened that labor pool, because it may be that somebody has 85% of the skills for a job, but they've never had the exact job title that you're looking for. And so we've done a ton of case studies with governments and companies on skill-based talent acquisition, where we've reduced time to hire extraordinarily well, to the tune of $300 to $500 per hire. And in large organizations, that's a big number when you're hiring 10,000 people a year type of thing. And so what the product you're going to see, the demo, is real time. It's feeding labor market intelligence from the labor market. And when we're implementing it with clients, it's completely unified with their existing talent architecture. So no longer do people have to be going out and recreating job descriptions, because what we're trying to do with this product is help reduce that creep of job descriptions that I was talking about, the 30 to 50,000 in the large organization, and align the talent architecture for appropriate workforce transformation and reskilling.
Does it create a kind of more of a skills-based description in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it could be skill-based or job-based, because the world is still kind of transitioning, and so we don't disregard job-based, like job title-based, but we are now bringing the element of skills into the the talent architecture.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. So Chris Toplak, I'm going to ask you to run us through the demo.
Absolutely. So appreciate that, Sean. And Chris, happy to walk you through this as well, too. So I'm just going to share my screen. You should be able to hear me. If you can't see me, I'm still going to be keeping you company the entire time. So as Sean noted, really, working with our clients, and again, the vast majority that I work with are the Fortune 500 companies. The one pain point that we kept hearing as it relates specifically to talent acquisition for many of them was the labor-intensive process it took to build out these job descriptions, or how outdated it was. Yeah. So some of these companies, they'd have like these job descriptions that they would routinely update every 8 years. Obviously, we know that so much changes in that. It's almost like a lifetime now in the workforce. So the job description generator was really created as a rapid way just to generate a job description that incorporates those labor market needs. And that's really the starting point, is that within the talent acquisition module, when we go to add a new job, obviously we add in pretty common details, right? A job title, a job type, a department, potentially an external ID, and also just a baseline skill level. Typically, you'll see that a lot on different job websites, right? But here we bring that in to say, at a baseline, what kind of level are we looking at? So let's just use an example of a software engineer. So similarly, how we index, obviously, these jobs, we have various job titles that are labor market equivalents. Because as you know, a software engineer could obviously be a little bit more specific in certain realms, such as a senior software engineer or a web software engineer. But let's just say that I'm a company hiring for a software engineer. I don't have an up-to-date job description, or I'm completely devoid of one. Where do I start? So I have this software engineer job title that I enter. It's a full-time position. I have a department of, I'm just going to put software development in, let's just say, an intermediate level. I can control the number of hires, or whether it's an unlimited hire base. When I look below, this is really the key point here. So similarly with how we extract skills from a resume, what we can do is that if by chance I actually have a job description available, I can either copy and paste it or upload it. And what we're going to do is extract all of those skills while also leveraging our labor market intelligence as well. So if I were to hit save and continue, there's two things that can actually happen here. I can either, again, upload or copy and paste, or I can actually generate a job description. And this tends to be the new starting point for the vast majority of our clients. So let's say I don't really know where to start. I can just quickly generate this job description. And by selecting this option, what it does is below, it's actually going to go through and allow you to modify any of this information. That's the ability to copy to clipboard. So basically what it is I have the ability to actually modify, what the typical reporting relationship is, the job purpose, the summary, the duties and responsibilities. And at the very bottom, as Sean alluded to, beyond just competencies and tools and technologies, we start looking at education, experience, and then even salary as well too. So what's important about that is that quite often we don't even know where to start when it comes to salary. So obviously we're aggregating this information as well as part of our labor market intelligence. And normally the starting point of how this works at this point is that, let's say that I want to go through and certainly make this more customizable for my company, right? I have the ability now to just copy to clipboard, simply copy and paste, and then within here, very quickly, I can edit or modify this information. So as an example, I could say software engineer. What's the reporting relationship? Well, it's actually going to be, we see that there's different options here. I'm just going to put VP of technology.
I love that you guys added that
Yeah.
Data point, right? Because that's
Yeah.
something that everyone, like, who's going to be my boss, right?
Exactly.
So I love that.
Exactly.
That part of it.
More clarity, the better, right?
Exactly.
And certainly if you can incorporate that into a job description, it benefits both parties. When you think about it from an internal perspective, which of course, we look at the empowerment of internal mobility, but even externally as well too. If you're posting this and it has all of this summary condensed in here, it's very clear. And it also provides me with comfort if I'm applying for this job as well too, to know all of the logistics involved. So what's intriguing is that I would have the ability to go through, edit or modify this information to make it more customizable towards my company. So obviously you could do the copy and replace and put in Acme Corp if you wanted to in certain places, which is pretty common. Or if I want to remove the salary at the bottom, just to not include that, because we do have a lot of companies that obviously want to hide that and not disclose it. So let's just say that at least I have this in mind. That's a great piece of salary for me to understand. If I don't necessarily know where to start, I can kind of piggyback off the labor market as well too, because I know that it's accurate real-time information.
Yeah.
So
how is each section created? Like with the job purpose summary, how is that extracted? How do you generate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically it's extracted in a couple different ways. Like what we do is we develop like deep generative model. And what we do is obviously we put that against the world's largest labor market knowledge graph. So we create these job descriptions that are accurate, bias-free, skill-centric. And we're aggregating this from job boards, aggregators, resumes, course outlines, patents, consensus data, you name it. And when we build this in here, we really have a standardized workflow that we're working with. So regardless of the job description that you have, you'll start to see these different, almost like subsections here. So we're trying to organize it in a very similar manner. So it's very consistent. So whether I'm looking at an accountant or whether I'm looking at a software engineer, at the very same time, you can imagine that while the information contained will obviously differ, it still has a very similar subset of those menus as well too. So we're trying to really organize it the exact same way when we extract it.
Gotcha.
So at the very end, I have now the ability, and this is like obviously the portion that Sean alluded to as well, that's obviously going to be a massive time saver, is, well, what are the skills that I need to be associated with this? And basically, if we're looking at it from a standpoint of our own organization, or we're hiring externally, or whatever the case is, there's obviously a core set of skills that we are looking for, right? And core competencies. By selecting extract skills, all of that information that I just entered, copy and pasted from the job description generator, will now be extracted in the form of skills. Where this starts to become pretty powerful is the following. We can dive into this and we can do the following in here as well too. We can say, I want to obviously maybe add some of these additional skills, but you can see that some of them were automatically extracted from that job description, which makes it easy. And there's also the ability to modify these. So if I want to go in and say, like obviously software development you want to keep, but maybe knowledge engineer, I don't want to include that as a skill. You have the ability to remove the skill. You can leave it as optional or move it up to required. And the difference between optional and required is basically a nice to have and a must have. It's just weighted differently in terms of how we calculate the skill match, which is nice because obviously there's going to be skills that are far more predominant that you absolutely need, that are almost like the non-negotiables, right? Especially some of those technical skills. So you have the ability to actually control that here. But you're going to also notice that beyond what we've automatically extracted, which are through these check marks, that you're going to see some of these other ones that have little plus symbols next to them. And the reason why you see those is they are based off of the most commonly demanded skills for that specific position over the past week. So again, as Sean alluded to, we're looking at real-time information. So when you see that leadership or iOS development or mathematical modeling is part of this, it's because those are commonly demanded skills in the labor market by other organizations or individuals who are currently working as software engineers possess these skills at this very moment. So this allows you to not only extract this information in a very swift manner, but it also allows you for a portion of that human in the loop as well too. It goes both ways. We have some that obviously love the fact that we're going to extract this data and they can move forward. And obviously they've done it so many times that they know the level of accuracy there. But if they want to go into this, and I've put on my talent acquisition or recruiter hat because I've recruited a lot of talent in my past too, I do like to go in just to see, well, what else do I want to add? We also allow the ability to manually add skills or tools and technologies that may be more specific to your organization, right? So if Salesforce wasn't extracted from the job description, or if it's not a commonly demanded skill in the labor market, you can still say, well, you know what? Salesforce is a commonly demanded skill within our organization, so we're going to add it there. So at least, again, it provides you with some human in the loop aspect. So I could go into this and start selecting some of these, or I'm obviously extracting some of these skills from the job description generator. Now, if you actually forget about it, one of the other aspects that's nice too is that at the very bottom, you're going to notice that I can actually generate it here. So that's almost like the scenario where if you're going through it and you're like, this job description I put together, some of the skills extracted, maybe I can actually just lean into what we're seeing in the labor market. So we also do add this here if an individual wanted to go in and maybe they have a change of heart, right? The other aspect as well is additional requirements. You're going to notice that it says suggested requirements for the role. And again, leveraging the labor market, we have the ability to actually say, well, here's some of the commonly demanded requirements that we tend to see in the labor market. So you can also piggyback off of that to say, is relevant experience or bachelor's degree or master's degree part of the requirements for this role? This is also the ability to include it here. So you can tell that going through this entire process, it's not only meant to make it, easy throughout a normally painstaking process, but it's also serving as reminders in all these areas to say, how specific do you want to be? Because this is what we're commonly seeing for software engineers in the labor market right now. And as we walk through to actually save and continue, the beauty is you can actually publish the job right here and now. Whether this is more geared towards your internal organization or you're posting it outside of your organization or even to both, which is common, you could just say from here, we want to publish it.
Okay, and what happens with that? Can I see?
Yeah, so we'll absolutely
where?
show you. Yeah, so basically all of this is just to show you like when and where and compensation. But if I wanted to continue without it, like just to show you how quick it can be, we also do recommend adding pay rate, obviously. It's a good best practice.
Yeah.
But I can obviously just jump down and say, here's some common skills. And this is like very basic. You're going to also notice as well is that we do include the non-gender neutral language as well too. So we flag this. And we have the ability to go and just to see, are there certain areas that we should revise as well too, right? So that's another feature that we actually built in line with military armed forces as well. We can update this position to the positions list, meaning that if this is something that I wanted to not only hire for, but this is something I wanted to also leverage as part of our job architecture, I could say, well, you know what, let's add that in there as part of our org chart, right? Like this is something that's a great job description, but also is great for existing individuals who work as software engineers too. So I could add that in there if I wanted, right? Rather than start from scratch. When I publish the offer, the beauty of this is that we can instantly see matches within our organization, along with individuals externally that match it as well too. So based on the fact that it was automatically extracted, I can start looking at the matches and start to see, so internally, because obviously we're geared towards internal mobility and supporting that journey, who qualifies for it? There's a small subset of employees I have added to the system, but I can instantly see, who are these two internal candidates if I want to sort by that, right?
So it's picking up your internal ATS.
You got it. So it's basically, you got it. Yeah. It's basically looking at all of the individuals we currently have in our system right now who have gone through that process of completing their skills passport, right? So as they complete their skills passport, and it's very similar to any individual going through it for the first time, they can fill it out manually, upload their resume or LinkedIn profile PDF, conduct the skills assessment. And that's how we're matching them up with training opportunities. That's how we're able to match them up with mentorship opportunities, but also employees can see how they match up against internal positions as well too. So if Acme Corporation was actually posting for a job, you could have individuals that are saying, whoa, I'm actually a match as a software engineer. I never knew that. Like, yeah, I'm a Java developer, but I'd rather be more of a software engineer. And I like the description that I'm seeing. But me as a talent acquisition specialist, I can also see who are the best candidates. So I can see that there's two internally, but I can also see the external candidates as well too. So based on the skills match and total match, by selecting this little arrow to the left-hand side, I can see the skills they have in common with that job description I just posted, which was very quick. And I can also see the gaps in there too. This also allows me with the opportunity to really start thinking, well, based on what I'm really requiring at this moment, is this still somebody that I want to introduce as a potential candidate, reach out to them proactively and invite them to apply, right? Because these external candidates are individuals that may have no idea that this job exists, right? And even in our case, as Sean noted with the Boolean search or going through Indeed, and I've gone through that process as well too, you may overlook individuals because you're only looking at the job title level. You're not necessarily looking at the skills they possess and how they match up. So we can even see too that this individual is located in Mississauga, and there are the shared skills and skills to train they have in common. But also beyond that too, I can see the source that this is from Indeed. And to take it a step further, and I know we're at time, I could actually from here view all of the skills that this individual has that we were able to extract from their Indeed profile instantly. But also, if I wanted to take that first step before actually going to their profile, I can look at their work experience, which we've been able to extract as well too and present here. And if you have the credentials to sign in to Indeed and you have a recruiter account, that's where you can either download their resume or message them specifically. So you can also see, of course,
you have a built-in integration with Indeed's resume database. Aren't those resumes behind a paywall?
An individual, like in this case, marked it as private, then it would be something that we can gather the information. But when we did, this would have been before they changed it, right? Behind a paywall is more so either downloading the resume itself or messaging them. But in terms of publicly finding this information, if I were to go on to Indeed and search for this individual, and again, this was probably before it was made private, I could go find them, right? So this would be available on Indeed if I were to go search for it right now because it's publicly available and they've made it as such. Same with like LinkedIn as well too.
So it's crawlable. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the majority of our clients have recruiter licenses for all of these platforms. And so that wouldn't be an issue when we're within an enterprise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So a couple of things that it shows as well too. How to quickly put together a resume based on a job description that we've generated. Again, leveraging the best practices and the best information from the labor market in real time. But beyond that as well too, how quickly you can start to see who internally are the best matches for this role and who externally could we actually start sourcing. So we use this ourselves as an organization, as you can imagine, but with our clients, that's really the dual purpose is first and foremost is to support that internal mobility and see who do we have, who could we build, borrow, and then also starting to go out into the labor market to say, well, who do we buy and how do we reduce that time to hire by finding these qualified individuals very quickly based on the proper skill set.
Yep. Going back to the job descriptions themselves. So is there like an internal library of these that you could save inside of your platform for the TA team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, in terms of how the job description generator works is that you can create any new job and you can basically save it from that standpoint. In terms of being able to download them all, right now it doesn't exist. That might be something in the near future that we do start to introduce because we already have them, right? We've already aggregated this information.
Yeah. And can you publish directly to your ATS from here or no?
Yes, absolutely.
can.
This can basically be like a backend system. So we've done that with different integrations as well too. Like we currently have some with, Workday, SuccessFactors we're working with, where this can act as almost like a backend system.
Yeah. It's a it's a job description library essentially that you could
Exactly.
do that.
So there's multiple different facets to this and how you want to use it. There's some that use it directly as such, and there's some that use it as a complementary component, right? Because obviously what we can accomplish based on our skills taxonomy and bringing all these individuals into this, you can see how it can be very beneficial in both ways.
Right. So is this a feature of your enterprise product or can you buy it separately?
That's a great question.
We've made it available separately, and this will be finding its way into the various marketplaces of the HCM technologies.
Yeah, great idea. I think this is a great standalone product too, in my opinion. I think it even goes beyond the enterprise too. I think, SMBs will love this as well.
Yeah.
As a tool just to help them create stuff.
You're speaking our language, Chris.
You are.
I've been waiting for a tool like this, and I'm glad you guys finally built something like this. I think, the one thing that job descriptions always have a problem too with is just the language itself, right?
Exactly.
So, just crafting that with a AI tool is awesome.
Because how many people touch them, right?
Right, exactly.
That's one of the issues too.
There's a cut and paste from like 10 years ago. It's how they all get built, essentially.
Precisely.
So, anything you guys do more too, just to improve that creativity with the wording as well is interesting. Like with that summary, is that just one template across all software engineers, or is there variability in that? If you say, let's say you want to create a Java engineer or a C++, does that summary change based on that?
Correct.
So it's variable exactly to the point on quantum labor analysis and that knowledge graph is that, we can carve any roll up, we go down to the level of skills, but then we can make our way back up to where, the organization is aligned. So for example, if you have, and Chris, I think you're okay to stop sharing for now.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you have an L4 sort of simulation engineer, and then you want to differentiate between an L4 and an L2, that's the point I was making in my opening comments about, the talent architectures of each organization are different. And there's even structures within multinationals. Like, so for example, an L4 simulation engineer in Houston at an oil and gas company will be a different job description than an L4 simulation engineer in the Netherlands, for example. And this is where the nuances and detail of reskilling at pace and at scale become very important, is understanding this. And so for every automation tool that we're putting in place, this is how we're approaching it in terms of design. The other important point to note, Chris, is that, the original press release that brought us together for this conversation was announcing that this is a patented product and methodology, right? Yeah. And so the real-time job description being generated from the labor market is the essence of that patent. And so any job description generator that's been created previously will have required some manual intervention to get it set up in order to automate the generation of that job description. This patent that is owned by Skyhive is the essence of real time coming from the labor market, which becomes very important when you're talking about labor shortages, war for talent, looking at compensation levels in real time, et cetera.
Yeah. Excellent. And how does I was on your website, I didn't see any information about the product there. Is that intentional, or how does someone go and actually sign up for this today?
No, I mean, right now what we're doing is as we've shown, it's embedded into our enterprise product. Right. So all clients that are seeing demos of our enterprise product or using our enterprise product are obviously getting the capability. And then over time, we'll, to your point on mid-market, we'll start to proliferate that more and more.
Very cool. Very cool. You can have different levels of tiered pricing, I assume. It's based on size of organization.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm impressed. I like it. I think it's needed in the market, and I look forward to seeing it evolve as well. So
That's great. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for taking the time to get to know us and to learn more about that particular product.